The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful place in the known universe. Crystal walls stretched up toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. 47 species had sent their representatives here, to the heart of Nexus Prime, where the fate of civilizations was decided. Today, they would decide the fate of humanity. Ambassador Yuna stood at the center of the hall. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served on this council for 15 years, longer than any human before her. She knew every delegate by name. She knew their fears, their hopes, and their secrets. Most importantly, she knew what they were about to do. High Arbiter Theln rose from his seat. He was a tall insectoid creature with 4 arms and eyes that glittered like black diamonds. His voice clicked and buzzed as he spoke, but the translation devices made his words clear to everyone. The Council has deliberated for 3 standard cycles, Theln announced. We have reviewed the evidence. We have heard the arguments. Now we must vote on Resolution 7742, the preemptive neutralization of the human species. Yuna did not flinch. She had known this moment would come. She had prepared for it her entire career. The delegates began to speak one by one. The Keth Dominion spoke first, as they always did. They listed humanity's crimes against galactic peace. Humans expanded too fast. Humans built too many ships. Humans asked too many questions about things that did not concern them. The Sauric Concordat spoke next. They complained that humans had colonized 200 worlds in just 300 years. No species had ever grown so quickly. It was unnatural. It was dangerous. The Mist Collective, beings made of living gas, expressed their concern through patterns of light. Humans were unpredictable. They did not follow the rules that other species followed. They formed bonds with anyone, traded with everyone, and showed loyalty to no one but themselves. One by one, the species spoke. One by one, they expressed their fear. Only one voice rose in defense of humanity. Counselor Veth was an old reptilian creature whose scales had faded to gray. He moved slowly to the speaking platform and looked around the hall with tired eyes. I have lived for 400 years, Veth said. I have seen 12 species rise and fall. I have watched empires crumble and new ones take their place. And I tell you now, this is a mistake. The hall fell silent. Even Theln paused to listen. Humans are young, Veth continued. They are loud and curious and sometimes foolish. But they are not evil. I have walked among them. I have eaten at their tables and listened to their stories. They dream of peace just as we do. Theln made a sound of disgust. They dream of conquest. Every report shows their military growing stronger. They build weapons because we gave them reason to fear us, Veth replied. Look at how we speak of them. Look at how we gather here in secret to plan their destruction. Would you not build weapons if you knew your neighbors wished you dead? The hall erupted in argument. Delegates shouted at each other in a dozen languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up. Yuna watched it all with quiet patience. She had heard these arguments before. She knew how they would end. Finally, Theln called for order. The noise faded. The vote began. One by one, the delegates cast their judgment. The Keth voted yes. The Sauric voted yes. The Mist Collective voted yes. Species after species, world after world, they all voted the same way. Only Counselor Veth voted no. 40-6-1. The resolution passed. Theln turned to face Yuna. His eyes showed no mercy, no regret. Ambassador, the Council has spoken. You have 1 standard rotation to leave Nexus Prime. After that, our fleet will depart for Earth. The human species will be neutralized for the safety of the galaxy. Yuna stepped forward. Every eye in the hall turned to watch her. They expected tears. They expected begging. They expected the desperate pleas of a doomed species. Instead, Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it sent a chill through every delegate who saw it. It was not the smile of a defeated woman. It was the smile of someone who knew something they did not. High Arbiter, Yuna said, her voice clear and steady. I thank the Council for its decision. I will return to my shuttle and depart immediately. Thelm leaned forward, confused by her calm. You have nothing else to say? No appeal? No request for mercy? Mercy? Una tilted her head slightly. Why would I ask for mercy from those who have none to give? She turned to address the entire hall. Her voice carried to every corner, every ear, every translation device. You have spent 3 cycles debating our fate. You have studied us, feared us, and judged us. But in all that time, you never thought to ask one simple question. She paused, letting the silence grow heavy. You never asked what we were doing while you talked. The delegates shifted in their seats. Something felt wrong. Your fleet will reach Earth in 40 cycles, Una continued. 10,000 ships from 12 species. The largest armada ever assembled. It is impressive, truly. Her smile widened. But you should have voted faster. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent hall. Counselor Veth called out to her. Ambassador! What do you mean? What have you done? Una paused at the doorway. She looked back one final time. We did what humans always do, Counselor. We planned ahead. Then she was gone, her shuttle lifted off from Nexus Prime 17 minutes later. As it entered hyperspace, Una finally allowed herself to relax. She pressed her hand against a hidden communicator built into her chair. It's done, Captain, she whispered. They took the bait. Begin the final phase. A voice crackled back through the static of hyperspace. Understood, Ambassador. The last ships are already moving. By the time their fleet arrives, there won't be a single human left for them to find. Una closed her eyes and leaned back in her seat. Somewhere far away, 12 billion humans were about to disappear from the galaxy forever, and the Council would never even know where they went. The Armada dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 10,000 warships spread across the darkness, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Thelm stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Extinction's Promise, and watched Earth grow larger on his viewscreen. He had waited 40 cycles for this moment. 40 cycles of travel through the empty void between stars. 40 cycles of planning the perfect attack. His fleet carried enough firepower to crack a planet in half. All ships, hold position, Thelm commanded. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. Scan the system. I want to know every human ship, every satellite, every piece of floating debris. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Prix, drifted beside him. Prix was a being of living mist, a cloud of glowing particles contained within a mechanical suit. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind through dry leaves. Admiral, the scans are complete. Good, show me their defenses. Prix hesitated. The glow within his suit flickered with uncertainty. Admiral, there are no defenses. Thelm turned sharply. What do you mean? I mean there is nothing here. No warships. No orbital platforms. No defense satellites. Prix's voice carried a note of confusion that Thelm had never heard before. The system is empty. That's impossible. Earth has a population of 8 billion. They have colonies on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, throughout this entire system. Run the scan again? I have run it 7 times, Admiral. The result is the same. Thelm moved to the sensor station himself. His clawed hands pulled up data from a dozen different sources. Heat signatures, electromagnetic readings, gravitational sensors, they all told the same. Story.Earth was dark, the great cities that had once blazed with light were silent and cold. The orbital stations that had circled the planet were gone. The space lanes that had buzzed with traffic were empty. It was as if someone had simply erased humanity from existence. Take us closer, Thelm ordered. Launch reconnaissance drones. I want visual confirmation. The fleet moved forward carefully, expecting a trap. Weapons stayed hot. Shields stayed raised. But no attack came. Nothing came. There was only silence and emptiness and the slow spinning of a dead world. The drones reached Earth's surface an hour later. They flew over cities that had been abandoned so long that trees had begun to grow through the streets. They passed over factories that stood cold and quiet. They recorded shopping centers where dust covered everything like a gray blanket. Science. Officer Brill joined Theln on the bridge. He was an amphibian creature with large, wet eyes and skin that changed color with his emotions. Right now, his skin was pale with shock. "Admiral, the drones have completed their survey," Brill said. "Every major city is abandoned. Every military base is empty. The humans left behind their vehicles, their buildings, even their personal belongings. But the people themselves are simply gone. Where did they go?" "Unknown. There are no signs of evacuation ships in the orbital debris field. No distress signals. No messages." Brill swallowed hard. "It is as if they vanished." Theln refused to accept this. Humans did not simply vanish. They were loud, messy creatures who left traces everywhere they went. There had to be an explanation. "Check their colonies," he commanded. "All 200 of them. Someone must still be there." The fleet split into smaller groups and scattered across human space. They visited every world that humanity had ever touched. Colony after colony, planet after planet, they found the same thing: empty streets, silent buildings, abandoned lives. On the colony world of New Sol, they found a message playing on repeat from every speaker in the capital city. The voice was calm, almost cheerful. "Thank you for your hospitality. We have moved on. Please do not follow us. You would not survive the journey." Theln listened to the message 17 times. Each time, his rage grew stronger. This was not defeat. This was not surrender. This was something far more insulting. This was dismissal. The humans had not waited for the Council's judgment. They had not begged for mercy or prepared for war. They had simply packed up their entire civilization and left, as casually as a family leaving for vacation. Bryl approached Theln with a data tablet in his trembling hands. "Admiral, I found something. In one of the abandoned museums on Earth." "What is it?" "A timeline. The humans left it deliberately for us to find." Brill handed over the tablet. "Admiral, they knew. They knew we would vote against them. They knew we would send a fleet. They predicted this exact moment." Theln looked at the timeline. It stretched back 47 years, showing every event that had led to this moment. Council meetings, secret communications, military buildups, all of it recorded with perfect accuracy. "They have been watching us," Theln whispered. "For nearly 50 years, they have been watching and listening and preparing." "That is not the worst part," Brill said. His skin had turned completely white. "Look at the date they began evacuating." Theln looked. The evacuation had begun 12 years ago. Long before the vote. Long before anyone had even suggested resolution. 7,742. The humans had started leaving before the Council had even begun discussing their fate. They had not reacted to the threat. They had predicted it. Subcommander Prix drifted closer. "Admiral, what do we do now? We cannot destroy an enemy that does not exist. We cannot claim victory over empty cities." Theln did not answer. He stared at the dead planet on his view screen, trying to understand what had happened. The Council had sent the greatest fleet in galactic history to destroy humanity. They had brought enough weapons to burn 1,000 worlds, and the humans had made it all meaningless simply by leaving Dot in one of the abandoned cities. The drones found one final message. It was written on a wall in letters 10 meters tall, painted in bright red that had faded to rust over the years. "We could have fought. We chose not to. Remember that when you wonder why we left." Theln ordered his fleet to return to Nexus Prime. There was nothing left to destroy, nothing left to conquer. The war was over before it had even begun, and somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, 12 billion humans were laughing at them. 12 years before the Council vote, deep beneath the mountains of the Korean Peninsula. The most important meeting in human history was about to begin. Director Hana stood at the head of a long table. She was 63 years old, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. Around her sat the 12 most powerful people on Earth: presidents, generals, scientists, and strategists. They had all come here in secret, leaving behind fake schedules and body doubles. "Thank you all for coming," Hannah said. "I know this was difficult. I know you have questions. But before I explain why you are here, I need you to see something." She pressed a button on the table. The lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the air above them, showing streams of alien text and translated messages. 15 years ago, Dr. Murray and her team cracked the encryption on Galactic Council communications. Since then, we have been listening to everything they say. Hannah paused to let that sink in. Everything. The room erupted in whispers. Admiral Jiwoo, a stern woman with graying temples, leaned forward. "You're telling me we've had access to their private channels for 15 years? Why weren't we informed?" "Because we needed to be certain of what we were hearing," Hannah replied. "And because what we heard was too dangerous to share until we had a plan." She changed the display. New messages appeared, highlighted in red. "The Council has a policy. It is old, older than most of their current members know. They call it the pruning protocol. Any species that grows too fast, expands too quickly, or develops technology beyond a certain level is considered a threat." Hannah's voice was steady, but her hands gripped the edge of the table. "Such species are eliminated." Silence fell over the room, the kind of silence that comes before screaming. "They've done it before," Hannah continued. 11 times in the past 10,000 years. The Veluxi, the Krant, the Singing Ones of Nebula 7, all of them grew too successful, too ambitious. All of them were destroyed before they could become a danger to the established order. "And now they're coming for us," Admiral Jiwoo said. It was not a question. Not yet, but the discussions have already begun. Based on our analysis, we have between 10 and 15 years before they vote. Perhaps 20 if we're lucky. Hannah brought up a new display: star maps, ship designs, resource calculations. "Which is why I've called you here. It's time to begin Project Exodus." Captain Taiho was the youngest person at the table. He was a naval officer with a reputation for doing the impossible, and he had been chosen to lead the first wave of the evacuation. He studied the star maps with growing amazement. "You want to evacuate the entire human race?" he asked. 12 billion people? "Yes, to where? If the Council controls this galaxy, where can we possibly go that they won't follow?" Hannah smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. "That's where Dr. Murray comes in." Dr. Murray rose from her seat. She was younger than Hannah, with messy hair and the distracted look of someone whose mind was always working on 3 problems at once. She carried a small device in her hands, no larger than a coffee cup. 3 years ago, we achieved something that we have kept completely secret from the rest of the galaxy," Murray said. "We developed fold space technology." The room fell silent again. "Fold space is instantaneous travel," Murray explained. "Not hyperspace, which still takes time. True folding of space itself. With this technology, we can travel anywhere in the universe in the blink of an eye. Why didn't we share this with the Council?" someone asked. "It could have changed everything." "Because it would have made them kill us faster," Hannah answered. "The Council fears humanity because we grow too fast. Imagine their reaction if they learned we had technology that could put us anywhere in the universe without warning. We would have been destroyed within a year." Captain Teho was beginning to understand. "So we hide the technology. We build ships in secret. And when the time comes, we simply leave." "Not just leave," Hannah said. "We disappear completely. We go somewhere so far away that they cannot possibly follow us." She pointed to a distant smear of light on the star map. "The Andromeda Galaxy, 2.5 million light-years away. Even with their fastest ships, it would take them thousands of years to reach us." Admiral Jiwoo stood up. Her face was hard, but her eyes showed a mix of fear and hope. "This is insane. Building enough ships for 12 billion people? Keeping it secret from the Council? Moving an entire civilization across the universe?" "Yes," Hannah agreed. "It is insane. It is also our only option. The next 12 years were the busiest in human history. Hidden shipyards were built inside gas giants where the thick atmosphere blocked alien sensors. Factories on asteroids worked around the clock, producing the materials needed for 2,000 Ark ships. Every human government participated in secret. Soldiers became construction workers. Scientists became engineers. Teachers taught children about a destination they had never seen. A new home waiting for them among distant stars. Ambassador Yuna was placed on the Galactic Council as part of the plan. Her job was simple: watch, listen, and buy time. When the vote finally came, she would be there to confirm it. And then she would leave, just like everyone else. The final evacuation began 3 months before the council vote. Ships lifted off from hidden locations all over human space. Families said goodbye to their homes, their memories, their entire history. They carried what they could and left the rest behind. Director Hana watched the last Ark ship prepare for departure. Captain Taiho stood beside her, ready to board. "Are you coming?" he asked. Hana shook her head. "Someone has to stay behind to ensure everything looks normal until the end. I'll be on the final transport." She looked up at the massive ship, gleaming silver against the black sky. "Take care of them, Captain. They're scared and confused and leaving everything they've ever known." "I will," Taiho promised. As the ship lifted off, Hana spoke her final order into her communicator. "Leave nothing they can use. Leave nothing they can follow. And leave a few messages behind, just so they know we chose this. We were not defeated. We were never defeated." High above, the Ark ships began to fold space one by one. Each fold was a flash of light, there and gone in an instant. Within hours, humanity had vanished from the Milky Way entirely. The galaxy would not see them again for 500 years. The fleet returned to Nexus Prime in silence. 10,000 ships that had left as conquerors came back as fools. Admiral Thelm walked through the crystal halls of the Grand Assembly with his head held high, but everyone could see the shame burning in his eyes. High Chancellor Morix waited on his throne of Livingstone. He was ancient, even by galactic standards, a being of pure energy, contained within a crystalline shell that had been old when the first stars formed. He had ruled the council for 3,000 years, and in all that time he had never experienced anything like this. "Explain," Morix commanded. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. Thelm stepped forward. "The humans are gone, High Chancellor. Every world, every colony, every station. They left nothing behind but empty buildings and mocking messages." "Gone where?" "We do not know. Our sensors found no trace of their departure. It is as if they simply vanished." The council erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted accusations at each other. Some blamed the Keth for pushing the vote too quickly. Others blamed the Sauric for underestimating human intelligence. The Mist Collective flickered with patterns of confusion and fear. Only Councillor Veth remained calm. The old reptilian sat in his seat with his eyes closed, as if he had expected this all along. A young scholar named Korn pushed through the crowd. He was small for his species, with oversized eyes that showed his nervousness. But he carried a data tablet that made everyone stop and listen. "High Chancellor, I have been analyzing the evidence left behind on Earth. I believe I understand what happened." Morix waved his crystalline hand. "Speak." Korn activated his tablet. A holographic display appeared, showing maps and timelines and intercepted communications. "The humans did not react to our vote," Korn began. "They predicted it. Based on our own records, they began their evacuation 12 years before we even proposed. Resolution 7742. Thelm stepped forward angrily. "Impossible. Our communications are encrypted with the highest security protocols in the galaxy." "They broke those protocols," Korn said simply. 15 years ago, by our best estimate. They have been listening to everything we said since then. Every council meeting, every private discussion, every military plan." The hall fell silent. Every delegate suddenly felt exposed, as if their deepest secrets had been laid bare. Korn continued. "But that is not the most disturbing part. The humans did not just spy on us. They analyzed us. They mapped our entire territory, identified every weakness in our defense networks, cataloged every political division that might be exploited. They were preparing for war, Admiral Thelm said. No, Korn shook his head. They were preparing to leave. They gathered all this information and then they simply ignored it. They could have attacked us. They could have destroyed our fleets while they were gathered at Nexus Prime. They could have assassinated our leaders or crashed our economy. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembly. They chose not to. They looked at everything we had, everything we were, and they decided we were not worth fighting. High Chancellor Morix's crystalline form flickered with something that might have been uncertainty. You are saying they showed us mercy? I'm saying they showed us contempt. Korn's voice was steady now, growing more confident. We spent 3 cycles debating whether to destroy them. They spent 12 years preparing to leave us behind like children arguing over toys. Counselor Veth finally opened his eyes. He rose slowly from his seat and walked to the center of the hall. Every eye followed him. I warned you, Veth said. His voice was soft, but it carried to every corner. I told you this was a mistake. Not because the humans would fight back, but because they were better than us. Kinder than us. More patient than us, he turned to face Morix directly. We voted to kill them. All 12 billion of them. Men, women, children, we condemned them to death because we were afraid of what they might become. Veth's old scales rippled with emotion. And how did they respond? They left us a message saying they could have destroyed us but chose not to. They left museums intact so we could study their culture. They left their cities standing instead of burning them. What is your point? Morix demanded. My point is that we have spent 10,000 years believing we were the civilized ones. We created the council. We established the laws. We decided who lived and who died. Veth's voice cracked with something like grief. And when the moment came, the young species we tried to murder proved themselves more civilized than all of us combined. The hall remained silent. No one could argue. No one could defend what they had done. Analyst Korn spoke up one final time. There is one more thing, High Chancellor. We found a data packet left behind by Ambassador Yuna. It took us several cycles to decrypt it. What does it say? Korn activated the message. Ambassador Yuna's voice filled the hall, calm and clear, exactly as it had been on the day of the vote. By now you have found our worlds empty. You have walked through our cities and wondered where we went. You have searched our stars and found only ghosts. I want you to understand something. We could have stayed. We could have fought. Our technology was more advanced than you knew, and our numbers were greater than you imagined. We would have lost eventually, but we would have taken half the galaxy with us. The message paused. When it continued, Yuna's voice was softer. But that is not who we are. Humans do not destroy what they cannot have. We build. We grow. We move forward. So we are leaving not because we are afraid of you, but because we refuse to become you. When you look at our empty worlds, remember that. We chose peace. We chose mercy. We chose to be better. The final words echoed through the silent hall. When you are ready to be better too, you will know where to find us. We left a beacon. It will take you 500 years to develop the technology to follow it. By then, perhaps you will have learned something. Until then, goodbye. We will be watching. The message ended. High Chancellor Morix sat on his throne, silent and still. Around him, 46 species who had voted to commit genocide were forced to confront what they had done. And what they had lost. Counselor Veth returned to his seat. As he passed Analyst Korn, he whispered something that only the young scholar could hear. Perhaps in 500 years we will be worthy of meeting them again. But I doubt it. The Galactic Council never recovered from that day. Within 200 years it collapsed entirely, torn apart by the divisions and resentments that the humans had so carefully documented. A new coalition rose in its place, younger and more humble, built by species who had grown up hearing stories of the departed ones, and somewhere, 2.5 million light-years away, humanity was just getting started. 500 years is a long time for most species. Empires rise and fall. Languages change. History becomes legend and legend becomes myth, but humans remember. They always remember. Elder Una sat in her garden on the colony world of New Earth, watching the twin suns set over mountains that had no names when humanity arrived. She was 547 years old now. Her life extended by medical technology that would have seemed like magic to her ancestors. Her hair was white as snow, and her hands trembled when she lifted her teacup, but her eyes were still sharp. Still watching? Still waiting. She had been waiting for this day since she walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. 5 centuries ago, a young woman approached through the garden. Onloi Sora was barely 30 years old, with black hair and eager eyes and the nervous energy of someone about to make history. She wore the simple gray uniform of the human diplomatic corps, and she carried a small device that blinked with an incoming transmission. "Elder Una," Sora said, bowing respectfully. "The signal has been confirmed. The new coalition has activated the beacon." Una smiled. It was the same smile she had given Theln in the council chamber all those years ago. The smile of someone who had always known this moment would come. "They finally figured it out," she said. "It only took them 487 years. The council left the beacon coordinates," Sora explained. "But they couldn't understand the technology. It took generations of their best scientists to develop fold space on their own." "Good. That was the point." Una set down her teacup and looked up at the evening sky. Somewhere beyond those stars, beyond the vast gulf between galaxies, the species that had tried to destroy humanity were now reaching out for help. "What does their message say?" Sora activated the device. A voice spoke, translated but clearly alien with the clicking undertones of an insectoid species. "This is the new coalition of the Milky Way galaxy. We are the descendants of those who wronged you. We cannot undo what our ancestors did, but we wish to apologize. We have spent 500 years trying to become worthy of your forgiveness. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. Please come home." The message ended. Una was quiet for a long moment. "Home," she repeated softly. "They still think of Earth as our home, is it not?" "No," Una shook her head. "Home is where your family is, where your children grow up, where your dreams come true." She gestured at the garden around them, at the twin suns and the purple mountains and the city lights beginning to glow in the valley below. "This is home now. Andromeda is home. 900 billion humans spread across 8,000 worlds. We have built something here that our ancestors never imagined." Sora hesitated. "Then we will not respond?" "Of course we will respond." Una pushed herself up from her chair. She was old, but she was not weak. "I did not wait 500 years just to ignore them." Captain Doan was waiting at the spaceport. He commanded the observation vessel Silent Witness, one of the ships that had spent centuries monitoring the Milky Way from hidden positions. He was tall and serious, with gray at his temples and the tired eyes of a man who had watched history unfold from a distance. "The fleet is ready, Elder," Dohan reported. 1,000 ships, as you requested. Medical frigates, science platforms, colony vessels." He paused. "No warships. We will not need warships." Una walked toward the shuttle that would take her to orbit. "We are not going back to conquer. We are going back to help." "Help them?" Doan could not hide his surprise. "After what they tried to do to us?" "After what their ancestors tried to do to us," Una corrected. "The ones who voted for our destruction are long dead. The ones reaching out now were born into the mess their grandparents created. They did not choose to inherit that guilt." She stopped and looked at Doan directly. "Do you have children, Captain?" 3 daughters. "And if your daughters did something terrible, something unforgivable, would you want them punished forever? Or would you want them to have a chance to make things right?" Doan was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand, Elder." The fleet assembled in orbit above New Earth, 1,000 ships, gleaming silver against the black void. They carried no weapons, but they carried something more powerful: seeds and medicine and technology and teachers. Everything a recovering civilization might need, Ambassador Bora joined Yuna on the flagship. She was middle-aged, calm, and patient, chosen specifically because she knew how to listen before speaking. She would be humanity's voice in the Milky Way, their first official representative since Ambassador Yuna left Nexus Prime 500 years ago. Any final instructions? Bora asked. Just one. Yuna took Bora's hands in her own. Remember that forgiveness is not weakness. It takes more strength to help an enemy than to destroy one. We could go back as conquerors. We could make them pay for what they did. But that would make us exactly what they feared. And what are we instead? Yuna smiled. We are gardeners. We plant seeds and help them grow, even in soil that tried to poison us. The fold space jump took only an instant. One moment they were in Andromeda, surrounded by familiar stars. The next, they were in the Sol system. Looking down at the blue marble that humanity had called home so long ago, the new coalition fleet was waiting. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, none of them weapons hot, all of them broadcasting messages of welcome and hope. At the front was a small diplomatic vessel, its hull painted with symbols of peace from every culture in the galaxy. Envoy Sora piloted the shuttle herself. She flew it slowly through the assembled fleets, letting both sides see each other clearly. When she reached the diplomatic vessel, she opened the communication channel. This is Envoy Sora of the Human Unity, speaking on behalf of the departed ones. Her voice was steady, even though her hands were shaking. We have received your message. We have traveled very far to respond in person. The alien voice that answered was old and weary, carrying the weight of centuries of regret. We have waited so long. We were not sure you would come. Sora looked back at Elder Yuna, who nodded once. We forgive you, Sora said. We never forgot you. And we never stopped hoping you would grow. Behind her shuttle, the human fleet began to shimmer into existence. 1,000 ships appearing from fold space, one after another, filling the sky with silver light. Not warships? Never warships. These were vessels of healing and teaching and building. Elder Yuna stepped up to the communication panel. She was old, so old, the last living human who had walked on Earth before the departure. But her voice was still strong. We left because we refused to become monsters, she said. We return because you chose to become better. The galaxy is wide enough for all of us. Let us find out what we can build together. Far below, on the surface of Earth, grass still grew in the streets of abandoned cities. Trees had broken through the rooftops of ancient buildings. Nature had reclaimed what humanity left behind, but now, for the first time in 500 years, human feet would walk those streets again. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. As gardeners ready to help the galaxy finally flourish. The long watch was over. The real work was just beginning.